The presentation today is going to focus on ISO 20000 certification at First Bank. We just got the ISO 20000 certification in May 2013. I think the first bank actually to get that certification. Probably the first large organization in Nigeria to get the ISO 20000 certification also. Now, what's our motivation? Actually, in 2009, we started an IT transformation process, which was driven in itself by a business transformation initiative. We more or less reloaded the Century 2 transformation when the present governor of the CBN, Lamido Sanusi, became the MD of First Bank. And the drive was to actually place First Bank back to the #1 position across all parameters that we were tracking. It's good to go back and say, so what's ISO 20000 and what's ITIL? Because sometimes we interchange these two terms. People feel, can I get certified to ITIL? Or is it the same thing? Once I've built my ITIL modeled processes, am I now ISO certified? Now, I've picked this definition from a website, so it's not my own definition. But ITIL essentially is a framework. It's a framework for IT service delivery. It's not a certification template for organizations. What it does is it describes a framework for you to plan and deliver IT services. So from an IT strategy definition to service designs, and then to actual execution of those services in terms of defining process templates. You have that defined within the IT infrastructure library, which is, of course, a standard that came from the British Society. But it's also the precursor or foundation on which ISO 20000 is built. So we'll go to ISO 20000. To my knowledge, ISO 20000 is actually the de facto standard for certification of IT service delivery in organizations. So this is the standard to which you can comply. For an organization, the certificate to say that you have deployed your IT processes in compliance with the framework, the ITIL framework largely. I would still, in some slides, show that ISO 20000 goes a bit beyond just following the ITIL, because it also picks a few learnings from other standards like scoopIT, just to make sure that you have a truly complete system for service management. So individuals can go for IT certification, but organizations will go for ISO 20000 certification. So you actually have ITSM Masters certification for individuals. That's an ITIL certification. So you go, they will actually test you for knowledge of some of those ITIL processes, and then you can get a certification, either for service delivery or for, service management as a whole. In First Bank, the way we went about this certification was to say, yes, we are going to adopt the full ISO 20000 guideline, but in addition, we're going to ensure that we feed in input from guidelines coming from our regulators, internal policies that affect other processes, our own performance management framework. We're going to also build that in. Now, then, of course, after assessing ourselves and also making the decision that we wanted to go ahead with ISO 20000 certification, we needed to select a consulting partner to work with us, and it was a competitive process. At the end of that, we won the process, and they were actually our partners in this, certification process. Planning, do, check and act, as they say. Essentially reviewing where we are, identifying gaps, fixing those gaps, and doing a review again iteratively for each of the processes until we knew that those processes were ready for certification review. Of course, at checkpoint, there were internal reviews, there were mock audits that were conducted also by digital jewels. And then, of course, we finally got the certificate in May. That's not the end, because it's not like a university certificate. It's actually not something that you keep for life. You are subject to further reviews, and you can lose it if you don't keep up to the standards. For us, ISO 20000 is just part of a package. It's all about trying to make sure that our IT governance and execution processes are governed by frameworks that are world-class, so that at the end of the day, we can run an IT organization that can compete with any other IT organization, at least within the industry that we serve, which is financial services.